Our state has some incredible problems. My name is Lynn, Hinderaker. I'm here to talk about that with you and talk about the trends that have shaped this state and dragged us in one direction or another. We're not really we're not realizing the dream we had way back in the early 2000s or even around 2008 or 9 or 10. My name is Lynn Hinderaker. Welcome to WowBiz, Nebraska. We're going to get it on right now. Are you a game changer? This is a very interesting question. A lot of people are thinking about this kind of thing as we kind of creep into a very awkward and confusing period of time. That's when people are looking, companies are looking for game changers, aren't they? Or maybe they're not. Maybe they just want everybody to sit in place, right? And just hang tight, do what you did yesterday, last week, last month, last year. Don't do anything different. That's a possibility as well. So think about the strategic advantage of being bold and innovative at a time when nearly everybody else in your industry, especially in the Nebraska marketplace, may be dragging their feet or just not quite sure what to do. Now remember, here's a couple of statistics. You got to write this down. 67% of all business owners are not thrilled with their current strategy. Just think about that. That's a big number. That's a lot of companies that are just kind of floating around and not knowing what to do next or what's going to happen as a result of not doing anything different than they did before. All right, so that's 67%. Here's another number that frightened me or at least created some concern. Only 21% said that they thought they could grow their company this year in 2025. That's not a lot of people, right? Most businesses tend to increase revenue and profitability by 3 to 5% at the very least. They can get that done. Some people go quite a bit further depending, but I'm just saying that's a lot of tentative, nervous, worried, and frankly kind of pessimistic business owners here in the state of Nebraska. My name is Lynn Hinderaker. We're going to talk about this, but we're going to talk about all kinds of things today. We're going to talk about people, but we're also going to talk about what goes on inside as you're a member of your organization, you're leading it and so on. The psychology, even the philosophy of it, that's what most of this company or most of this show, rather, is all about. And I find that very fascinating. It seems more and more, we're rushing over here towards artificial intelligence, trying to figure out what the application is. It seems like if we're cutting edge with technology, that puts us ahead of everybody else in our industry. But there's a lot of people that are not. By the way, I think the vast majority are not trying to get some kind of a market share edge just because of technology. So plus, there's a lot of companies out there that are, and smaller ones in particular, they know they should be marketing, advertising, various forms of business development, but they don't know where to go to do that. They don't know how to get that started. They don't know what it looks like. You see these ads that are in these bulletins, these inexpensive giveaways at grocery store lobbies and so on, and you'll see lots of ads. Most of them are not attractive. There's no human being in about 90% of these ads because they don't know where to go to find the right person or how to prop them or model them or whatever. It's a shame, really. It really is. A lot of exclamation points and that kind of thing. And say, oh, well, stick it in there. It's probably better than nothing. And they move on. But over time, then, it doesn't seem to work well. And they get bitter. They become bitter not just about the advertising piece, but about advertising and marketing in general. Even nervous and bitter about salespeople. And the salespeople are like, can't you do something to get some action going? So when I knock on a door, they go, oh, yeah, I've heard of you guys. That's not happening for many of the salespeople that are working for, medium-sized to small firms. And when you come and knock on their door and say, hey, I've got an idea for your firm, a theme, an idea, a concept, a way to differentiate yourself from those guys. And so often, I have to tell you this, so often the response is, I don't think so. I don't believe in that. See, so it's really a sad thing for them and frankly, for the entire state. Anyway, I'm going to back up I'm going to back up and I'm going to tell you a story right now about game changing and what that does to you inside. Because believe me, we all want to be game changers or capable of being a game changer. But what does that really mean? Now, years ago, people that know me know this, I played a pivotal role in developing the very first value menu in the history of fast food for Taco Bell. And of course, PepsiCo owned Taco Bell back in the 80s and in the 90s. And that's when I was working for a large ad agency. I had Taco Bell as my client and was working with a franchisee who was not doing well in Lawton, Oklahoma and Wichita Falls, Texas. He wanted to do something different. He had an idea. Together we created the value menu. It's a 49-cent value menu for Taco Bell. Unbelievable. And we got all the marketing materials and the radio ads and the window clings and tray liners, very important. We got all that organized and in place, and we didn't hear from him again for just a few weeks. Finally, I called him up. I said, what's going on and what's happening with the value menu campaign? He said, you're not going to believe what I'm going to tell you. We enjoyed a 60% increase in sales, Lynn. I said, wow, wow, because we lowered the prices. And I'll tell you how we did that. He said, he says, the thing we forgot about was the military base here in Lawton, Oklahoma, and Wichita Falls, both of them. They had a lot of retirees, military retirees, fixed income, of course, and they're coming to Taco Bell every day, he told me. He said, lunch and dinner, saving a lot of money and enjoying those two meals at Taco Bell. And that was the beginning. The word spread throughout the Taco Bell system, and pretty soon franchisees began setting up meetings and calling me and having me come chat with them about it and what's the impact on profit, et cetera, et cetera. By the way, people do pull me aside and say, how did you beat McDonald's, in the fast food world? I mean, that was a major move, and going up against McDonald's and so on. How'd you do that? And of course, I had to look at him right here and say, beans are cheaper than hamburgers. Beans are cheaper than hamburgers. And that means the Taco Bell was operating at a margin at that time, maybe 25%. McDonald's was operating at a margin of about 10%. So you can see there's quite a bit of difference right there. And so the more beans you sell, the easier it is to handle transactions, grow your business, and so on. So it was a very interesting lesson for everybody involved. But here's the thing. As we kind of wrapped up the first thrust, obviously the Taco Bell has been going on for, the value menu has been going on for about 25, 30 years now. But the first chapter, by the way, when PepsiCo owned it back in those days, it was a $1 billion turnaround for Taco Bell. $1 billion went directly to PepsiCo in Purchase, New York. Well, anyway, at about that time, my wife and I decided we were going to leave Los Angeles and head back to Omaha, Nebraska, where she was from. And so the entire office had a party, kind of a goodbye party, and they set it up in Manhattan Beach in Orange County, I believe it was, pretty close to the ocean, the waves and everything, and they found a nice bar, restaurant, and so on. And we set up, had a nice party going. And then everybody's saying goodbye, very nice. And then these three executives, dressed to the nines, all very corporate looking, with wingtips, walked into the restaurant. And they walked directly over to me. I think they maybe had a glass of water or something. And they came right to me, without a smile, by the way, and said, "Let's take a walk." I didn't know what I was getting myself into. I didn't know who these guys were or where they were coming from, but I thought, okay, well, I'll cooperate. It won't cause a problem here. We'll see what's going on. So sure enough, we all walked out the back of the restaurant, down onto the sandy beach, beautiful big white sandy beach, and walked. We just walked quietly. Nobody said a thing. I didn't know where we were going to go. And we just kept walking for about, I would probably maybe 40 yards, something like that. And the ocean waves were coming. It was really a great scene. And they circled around me, these three gentlemen. And they said, "Lynn, we've decided to come out here and thank you. We're all the way here from Purchase, New York, where PepsiCo is headquartered. And we flew out here so that we could personally thank you for the financial contribution that you've made to PepsiCo through the value menu and its rapid growth and expansion throughout the system. In fact, disrupting the entire industry in some ways. So they were very nice, and I didn't know what to say. I was speechless, frankly. I didn't quite know what to say. That's pretty odd, not the way I am normally. But they said, here's the deal. They said, we would have never allowed you and that franchisee to mess with the menus, to alter the menu pricing. You really can't do that. That's not part of the franchise agreement, so to speak. But, you see, you were ahead of us. You were ahead of us. You knew something we didn't know. And we were just playing the game safely, but you stepped out in front of the entire industry and did something that nobody else would have envisioned doing, and it was a home run. It just grew and grew and grew, and we had nothing to do with it, frankly. So we wanted to thank you for that. Each one of them got a healthy bonus to their salary, by the way, and I mean healthy. And they said, so we don't think you should leave Los Angeles. You're an innovation kind of a guy, but we understand you have family considerations, and we respect all that. So what we would suggest to you before we leave here tonight is that you look for companies. When you get back in Nebraska, you look for companies that act like they know what they're doing, that they think they have their act together. Just like we thought we had our act together, Lynn, but we didn't have our act together. You saw something that we didn't see. So that probably is the case in Nebraska as well, wherever. But that's what we would suggest that you do, is look for companies that think they have it together, but they really don't. And so that's all we have to say here today. We're going to fly directly back to New York from here. But thank you so very much for your $1 billion contribution over the last 3.5 years. We appreciate it greatly. And they turned right around and walked back to the restaurant, and that was it. And I was so shaken by this unexpected conversation, that I literally was quivering. I'd never had anything like that happen to me in my entire career. It gave me a deep sense of gratitude and confidence, as you might imagine. So they said this. They said when you get back to Nebraska, they had this phrase inside. I can't believe they said, "Do what only you can do." Wow. Oh, man. Oh, my goodness. Do what only you can do. So they're talking about changing the game and, a singular contribution to that kind of a campaign or project. So this is the first question. I'm finally getting around to it, kind of moving around at my cup of coffee. My question is, if somebody told you to do what only you can do, what would that mean to you? I mean, what would that be exactly? I really encourage you to reflect on this, because it's entirely possible that applies to you as well in a certain context. But nevertheless, so we're talking about game changing. Now, we're talking about performance, of course, quality, hustle, achievement. And I think doing what only you can do also implies connecting the dots, seeing relationships between different things that other people may not see, and moving on those connections, funding them, turning them into a product, some kind of a value, whatever, and there we go. So I'm going to get back to you here in just a minute after we introduce you to our sponsor for WowBiz Nebraska in just a minute, but this is what I'd like you to reflect upon. What would it take for me to be a game changer? Remember, this kind of thing came up a lot back in 2001 and 2002, also 2008 and 2009. All right? These were pivotal moments all the way back to late 1980s. That was a very interesting time where the pendulum swang from from prestige and upscale and the very best, all the way to overspending, and now all of a sudden we're in a value hold position. That's what happened in the late 80s. But anyway, think about that. How do I become a game changer? What is the game? And how do I fit in? That's right. Well, this podcast is exciting. It's really fun to do, and I'm so grateful for your being here. But this show is brought to you by V-Mail and V-Mail Voltage in particular. Now, V-Mail Voltage is a singular technological leap forward, all right? A type of email, obviously focusing on video, right? And it's not something that you can get through Google or some of the other platforms that you would know about. This is very unusual. If I sent you an email right now, or a V-mail, right now, a video email, the first thing you'd say is, I didn't click here. How did this video get on my screen? That's the first thing. And secondly, it's so personal. It's like listening to somebody who knows you, a little bit like this. Somebody who knows you and can speak to everything about you and your feelings and the people that know you, your company, whatever. So you have that going on. All of a sudden there's a person, and they're endorsing, by the way, V-Mail endorses a company, right? Says, look, you won't be hearing from me very much, but you do need to know about John. I'm here to simply introduce you to John. Outstanding person, knows everything about your industry, knows the problems you guys have, got a wonderful solution. I heard all about it. I'm going to tell him to give you a call after we wrap up this very short 3, 4, 5 minute little introduction. Thanks so much. And once again, V-Mail Voltage. The voltage word is a really cool word. It's like energy. And that's exactly what I think that V-Mail Voltage is going to redesign email messaging and email prospecting. All right. Some people will call it power pre-sale. All right, because it does get the door, the foot in the door. That's a pre-sale. It's very powerful because it's novel, it's unusual, no buttons, no links, nothing. Clear, straightforward, power pre-sale. It's another way to talk about V-Mail. That's what this show is brought to you by, right here, WowBiz, Nebraska, brought to you by V-Mail Voltage. You might want to ask for, go to the Nebraska.com site and try to download the background information, examples, and so on. You'll be blown away, not only by the technological edge, but the person behind the camera, the person who's speaking to your prospects in your behalf, making the endorsement about you and your company, then stepping back, and the communication now begins to flow. It's invaluable. Check out V-Mail Voltage right here on WowBiz Nebraska. Can you believe that? I mean, we are bringing you new innovations all the time. And let's make sure that we don't miss each other, right? Let's not miss the opportunity to communicate about forward thinking, what's coming, what's going on out here, and what some of the really most profound thinkers are talking about right now in this, like I said, kind of a transition period, and their take on the culture and what's happening. We're going to get right back to this game changer notion and what happens to somebody like yourself that says, I'd like to be a game changer. Absolutely. I can make more money. I can make a difference. It can be more meaningful, because we all know, not just because of technology, by the way, there's a lot of business articles out there and very smart people. They're saying, look, despite the fact that AI is indeed making a big footprint, doing a lot of great things, and it's being customized to do different services, and that does have a ripple effect on workforce. We all know that. But balancing that, right? Balancing that and making business more humanitarian. I got to think of a better way to say that. More personal, more emotional, more relationship-oriented. This is what, not just psychologists, but leaders of all kinds of industries say. We cannot allow ourselves to drift apart and over-rely on some pre-programmed system or some computer. whatever, we have to make sure that we can touch not only just the logic and see you tomorrow and do this for me, appreciate it and all that. That's nothing. That's nothing. And this may be the heart and soul of our culture, but it seems to be kind of deteriorating, especially in the younger demographics. They just don't know. They were never told how to form a relationship with somebody in a room. Yeah, I know it sounds ridiculous. This is why they don't want anybody to give them a phone call. They're nervous about a phone call. They don't know what to say. They become embarrassed. Yeah, I guess. They don't have a conversation. Do you realize how serious this is? How can these people, now 25 maybe, when they're 40, 50, 60 years of age, how can they be leading organizations if they didn't learn way back when they were younger about how to initiate a meaningful conversation, how to be authentic, how to be genuine, right? All those things. So important. Just the ability to establish rapport. This is a very important skill, and somehow they're just kind of flipping over it, saying, I'll text you, bye. Want to go out for a date? I'll text you. Just turn on your phone and we'll chat, etc. Okay? It's too easy, too convenient, too shallow, and we need to surround this problem and help these people to create meaning. Now, I have to tell you this. It's so funny because they are lonely, and they will tell you privately that their business, they go to the office, they work in a factory, a lot of them hourly workers, and it's very repetitive, sometimes hard work, and they don't really know why I'm here, They don't seem to pay that much attention to the money because the money doesn't go very far anyway. They're looking for purpose. They're looking for purpose. They're looking for meaning. Now, this is so interesting because, many business owners are not trained and not, they don't know how to inspire their employees. So it's really a huge issue, probably a bigger issue than we realize. So here's the thing. We'll go back to the game-changing thing. It's an exciting theme. So somebody says, look, you need to come in here and change the game. These people need to hear from somebody who can inspire them and get them to stay here. Or my customers are drifting away. They don't seem to have any strong loyalty to the products, and I'm very nervous about that. We need to have a conversation with somebody like you. Can you please help us? And where do we begin? So there are 5 questions that I would ask under those circumstances, assuming I'm the game changer at that point. So the first one is, where are we going? That's question number 1. Where are we going? Well, that in itself could be a half an hour conversation at least, arguing about what's the objective. Is it a market share objective? We want to get to a 37% share of market. A lot of companies don't even know what their share of market is, by the way. We need to increase revenue by at least 10 to 15%. We've got to replace 2 key people in the executive offices. Where are we going, boss? What's the point? And by the way, are we doing anything for anybody else? Some social responsibility thing? I don't know. So the next question is, after where are we going? Let's say, well, we need a 12% increase in top-line sales and a 7% increase in profit, whatever those numbers mean, okay? So now it's, how are we going to get there? Now we're talking about strategy. It's my favorite topic, by the way. So you've got those numbers. You kind of have a goal. You've got to put it up on the wall. You promised me you'd do that. But how are we going to get from A to B? Well, let's think about that for a second. We could bring in additional talent, which would help us accelerate and get there faster. We could do marketing and PR. That might accelerate it. If it's driven by profit mostly, then we got to figure out a way to cut costs. So maybe we invest in some technology that's super efficient and lowers the cost of getting a piece of product out and connecting with the customer. But we got to get there in some particular way, and we can't stumble along the way. We have to agree that we're willing to not do this so that we can do that. All right. Now is a big question. Now we get personal. How is my work contributing to those goals, huh? Well, that's very personal, but most everybody will tell you that they're pretty sure that they are contributing to those goals, but the goals might have changed. So I've got to think now, what can I do? Come in earlier, do better at this, learn how to do this programming, maybe just go out and hang out more, do more mixing with customers and get a feel for what they're looking for. Maybe even help conduct some research for some outside researcher, right? These are all things that I could do. That's 3 questions. Number 4, we'll just wrap it up here real quick. What is going to change and what is not going to change? Well, if the goal changes, then probably the strategy changes. If the strategy changes, that means maybe the system changes, or maybe the people or the staff, somebody's going to have to change there. Huh? Now, what's not going to change? My guess is the boss is not going to change. He's still going to be the boss. He's probably going to stay with the facility as it is, and all the ways that we kind of come to work and do our thing here. He's probably not going to change the policy about remote and hybrid. He's kind of worked through that, and he's got a system he thinks is reasonable. All right, so there we are. Those are the things that are going to change or not going to change. And then finally, wrapping up, if you're a game changer, and we'll focus on this real quick. If you're a game changer, you're going to change outside, because you're going to hone a personal brand. You're going to kind of get it together, look, make sure maybe different car, dress differently, maybe take a course or two in how to write an email better or how to speak in front of a group of people. These are all things that are external manifestations of going up to the next level, right? And but then there's that interchange, right? And that's a big deal. Your self-image and trying to watch all the things that are going through your brain, drifting around, bouncing off. You may want to have to try to not be so anxious, right? To realize that you were inspired by a higher level influence in the first place. Maybe you don't have to run after and chase things. Maybe you align yourself with a deeper, more important influence, consciousness, as they say. All right? So that's internal maturity, internal growth, and of course, external growth, manifesting that. But you don't go out and get stuff outside and then try to pull it into your life. You try to cultivate maturity and grace and self-love and compassion and all these qualities, and you cultivate them inside and become conscious and happy with who you are. You relax, and then you start to get and attract the things that you've always wanted to have, but they're coming to what you've become internally. All right. My name is Lynn Hinderaker. Thank you for watching WowBiz Nebraska. We're down to the very end of this incredible show. Don't forget about our sponsors, by the way, Vmail. Don't forget about Vmail. They can help you move your sales forward. Very interesting and exciting. I'll see you next time. Again, don't forget, Lynn Hinderaker with WowBiz Nebraska. We will talk to you soon. We will talk to you soon. We'll have a whole new agenda. You'll learn a lot, and get ready to take some notes every time you watch WowBiz Nebraska. See you next time. Bye-bye.